Before we can get into this episode of the DevCast, be sure to like, subscribe, and join our community link down below. Everyone, and welcome to the DevCast, your weekly Roblox podcast for all Roblox-related content and personal up-close interviews and conversations with some of your favorite Roblox creators. Today, we're here with Blastii, a Roblox music artist known for her melodic music and intriguing worlds filled with harmonic music soundscapes. She is also known for her contributions on projects such as Flood Escape, Bleakville, and many more. Please welcome Blastii! Woo! Oh my gosh, it has been a while since we have talked, I will say. And
it has been a while.
Yeah, it's been quite a long time, I will have to say. And I'm sure you've probably been very busy, but I just thought it would be quite, such a good time. I think it would be a good time to catch up, And
yeah, because last time we worked together, it was May.
Yeah.
And now it's
or something like that. It was spring.
Yeah,
we were working on a spring event, and I will say it. You were probably very stressed at the time, but I still remember it being a fun experience despite how chaotic it really was. But hosting events in general is quite a I would say it is quite nerve-wracking, and I think in the future, I've got some plans for other events, and I don't think it won't be I don't think it'll be long before we even collaborate again. So yeah, it was quite fun working on that spring event for sure. And the music somehow worked fine despite us commissioning. Working with two music artists. Somehow that was a mistake of mine. I didn't really. Yeah, we didn't.
2 hours, but we made it work.
We made it work, and it somehow worked perfectly fine. But yeah, I'm very proud of that whole project that we worked on. But anyway, you know what? I'm just gonna get started. Today is gonna be a very short episode. This is more of just a meetup. We're not gonna have a very long episode today. So I just want to ask you, considering you're really well, read up on how music works on Roblox. I want to ask you, what advice would you actually give to any person who wants to actually go into Roblox music and do exactly what you do?
Man, don't be afraid. Gotta jump right in. Dive head first.
Yeah. That's.
I'll be honest. You have to fake it till you make it.
That's true as well, somewhat. Yeah.
There were a lot of times when I first started. I put a portfolio up on Dev Forum.
Yeah.
People would come to me and they'd be like, "Hey, can you do, electronic music?" And I don't do a whole lot of that. It's certainly something I'm fascinated with, but even though I quite honestly didn't know how to do it, you always say yes, you can, because if you commit to it, you'll have to do it, and you'll learn how to do it, and it's a good way to acquire new skills. And also be sure you're comfortable with the software that you're using. And I started writing music for friends because I over the years of playing Roblox, I met a few people, especially on Discord. We chat regularly, and they'd be like, "Hey, I'm making a map just for fun. Do you want to try to write something for it?" And yeah, it's a good way to practice, kind of looking at visuals, and matching instruments, and kind of getting to practice, figuring out and just getting to know your sound libraries, and getting to know kind of.
I'm sure it also takes a lot of patience, because I'm assuming music just doesn't happen off the bat. I've tried several times and I've flopped miserably, so
it's definitely frustrating at first.
Yeah.
The biggest problem I had was not knowing what instrument to use. So say I could envision a sound that I wanted, or hear a melody in my head, but going through, when you have a sound library that has thousands of sounds, where do you start with that? How do you start with going through all of them and finding one that you want to use?
And it also, I know when it comes to making music, it's, songs are structured in so many different ways. Do you start with the drums? Do you start with a random beat? Do you start with, like synths, or like there's all sorts of things that you can start off with. I think it all takes about comes down to how you layer your song when it comes, and the editor you use, and all sorts of tools and functionality. I'm not necessarily like fond on certain programs that you use to make music. Would you maybe go through what sort of tools and sort of things that you use when it comes to making music, and how people can use those to utilize, use them, and to make their sorts of music that they want to make?
Yeah. So going back to what you said about, I lost my train of thought.
About editing, or is it about? I think it was
no, about structuring, like
yes,
sounds.
Yeah, structuring, yeah.
Don't think too hard about it. So when you first start a project, don't think through, I know what I want to use. I want, like, maybe I can try to find this sound. Don't have any expectations for yourself, especially if you aren't very familiar with your sound library.
Yeah.
Just kind of pick a category that sounds cool, whether it's soundscapes, synths, pads.
Yeah.
Whatever you think sounds cool, pick one and go with it. And if you like it, then great, use that. Or if you don't, then go try to find something else. But don't go into it expecting anything, and don't overthink it. As for tools to use, I think when I first started, I would go really heavy on reverb. I love reverb.
Oh yeah, reverb. Yeah.
You write a piano part and you put some reverb on there, and it sounds awesome.
Yeah.
But then if you add 5 more tracks that have a ton of reverb, it starts to get mushy.
It turns into Frankenstein.
I think that's not necessarily a tool, but I think the one piece of advice I would give right off the bat is, you don't need as much reverb as you think you do.
Yeah.
But I think EQing is using the equalizer is a very important tool to use. Because that gives you a lot of control over the sounds that you use. Yeah. And what else? I guess like technicality, like piano roll, just writing stuff in. It's really, I spent 2 or 3 months just goofing off with my software and kind of learning where things are and what they do. So, but you gotta have fun with it, and know that if you get frustrated, you won't be frustrated forever.
Yeah, I think it's quite easy to get into a maze when it comes to music. A lot of people do overthink things, especially me. When I was trying too hard, when I was trying to learn how to do music, I would often the beat would be too heavy. Like I would make the song would end up sounding a bit squeamish sometimes. Sometimes it'd be too loud. I think it's also important to monitor how loud your audio is. And that's actually quite hard. I never often know how loud my audio is when I'm making it. Because I have to balance it. I think what you would have to do on Windows is like make it like 50%. And then on the editor it needs to be 50% as well. One time I made a song that was way too loud and I almost burst my eardrums. It was insane.
I went through a phase where that was a big problem of mine.
Yeah.
I would export the track and I would send it to someone, and then I'd play it back. Say like I sent it through direct message on Discord. I'd play it back and it would be way too quiet. I didn't know why. And then you'd have to, Google, why is my track so quiet? And it's just trial and error.
Yeah.
And
it is trial and error for sure.
It's really helpful to have acquaintances that do the same thing. I'm in a server with a bunch of other people that kind of do what I do.
Yeah.
Some of them even go as far as, doing film scoring or wanting to, go as far as that. And whenever you have a question, you just reach out to them and they're like, oh, this is what I do. Yeah. But I definitely had a problem with audio and volumes, and it's really just playing around, trying different settings. It's frustrating and it's tiring, but it's worth it if you just. And I didn't.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good. I didn't. I think there's maybe one YouTube video, 1 or 2 that I've ever watched as a tutorial on how to write music.
What?
I'm
never surprised by that.
I despise watching tutorials, like how to do this, how to do that. I find so much more joy in dabbling around and just trying things. And it takes, I mean, don't get me wrong, like if you want to go for time, if you want to do it in a timely manner, then I would watch tutorials. But if you don't really have a plan, or
it's best to have fun with it,
aren't in a rush, then like just learn it on your own. And I mean, it's been about 3.5 years since I started writing music.
Yeah.
And I have a lot to learn still, but I've learned a lot. Even in the first year, you know, I knew.
Yeah.
I knew enough. So you can do it really whatever. There's no right way to do it. It's just whatever feels best.
Yeah, I know what you mean. You know, and you know, considering you actually learned, you know, using all different types of softwares, just off of the top of your head, and you didn't really pay attention too much to, you know, like videos and stuff like that. I could say the same. I was like that with Studio as well. I grew up with Studio. I didn't really watch too many tutorials. And while, you know, going through that process, are there any, you know, particular mistakes that you've made in the past that you would maybe warn other people to maybe try avoid when it comes to making music?
Yes. Save your work.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
Save your work. Well, and that's sounds like a pretty obvious one. I use Logic Pro, which has, you know, if your computer crashes or, you know, you have to shut it down because there's a problem and you open it back up, you have an autosave. So that's not that. The losing work wasn't much of an issue for me.
Yeah.
But there were times when I would, or I guess I should probably say save your file as different versions, because there'd be times I would write something and it's, you know, I love it. I love what I've written. And then it's kind of, I'll use a bit of an analogy here. Are you ever like in class and you're doodling on paper and you draw like a perfect circle or something, you try to make it more perfect and then you make it worse?
Yeah.
That happens a lot with me.
Oh, I see.
So I'll write something and then I'll love it, but then I'll keep adding to it and I won't like it. And then, you know, I won't be able to go back. Or if you try to revert, you have to save.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had many times when I was becoming a Roblox developer, my computer would crash very often, and I would never save for you know, countless times, and you would just sit there and cry, because what else are you supposed to do? You know, if it didn't save, it didn't save. But I think it's that.
There was.
I mean, yeah, it's quite heartbreaking. Yeah, sorry.
There was one. No, you're gonna. Yeah, I interrupted you. There was one time, and this was purely my fault.
Oh, no.
But I'll still explain it. So I was working on a trailer for a score for a trailer. It was the Bluebell trailer, actually.
Oh. And
I think I put probably 30 hours into that 30-second track. A lot of time, and it was only 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And I started in the morning. I worked on it all day.
Yeah.
I saved it. I opened it in the morning, and I worked on it all day. And then I ended up not liking anything that I did.
Oh,
and I was like,
shucks.
oh, the version that I did, you know.
Oh, no.
A couple hours earlier was a whole lot better, and I went to revert it. And that when you revert it, it goes back to the other version. But if you go back, you can't go forwards again.
What? How
so
does that make sense?
I reverted, and I got the time wrong, and I clicked the wrong one because I thought it was from like 3 hours ago, but it was actually from the night before. And I reverted it to like 20 hours before. And lost all of that. But I got really lucky. And if you go and listen to that trailer, the file that's in it that was used it's a very, like, I don't want to say messy, because the file, it was still mixed and everything, but it was just a sample file that I exported and sent to update everyone on how my work was going.
Oh,
And I got lucky because I exported it like 30 minutes before I lost all my work. So I had that file.
Oh, that is great. Oh my gosh. You know,
don't do that. Don't be like me.
yeah.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. But that's quite frustrating because even things like Roblox Studio, for Roblox developers, you can, you know, even if you revert back to an older version, you can actually revert back to your newer version that you already did. So like, I don't know, that was like what type of system is that? That's really dumb to like delete that version and then move it back to the old version, and then you can't get that new version that you already worked on.
The mistake I made that I no longer make is if I revert, I save a copy of the file, so that if that happens, I still have, you know, the newer version.
Yeah.
That was.
I just wish that some, like, I just wish some sort of platforms, regardless of what it is, whether it's studio making music, well, studio already has it, but I just wish music making platforms and you know, softwares actually had autosave. I just don't understand. How hard is it to implement? I mean, please. It really.
No, I agree with you.
I don't understand. I genuinely don't. Like, I don't know if it's like a Windows problem or something, but they should add it regardless. I'll never understand to this day why some music programs just don't have autosave. It really is quite frustrating.
Yeah. I mean, I got lucky because there have been times my computer has, well, I guess it doesn't really matter if it dies, but
oh shucks,
it would crash. Logic would crash out of nowhere. And then it opened the file back up and it says, do you want to use the last saved file or the autosave? Autosave, and it opens it back up just how it was.
Oh, yeah.
It's nice.
Some editors do that. Thank goodness they do that. But do you usually edit with a laptop or just with like an actual full-on PC?
Just my laptop. I have a 2019 MacBook Pro.
All right. Yeah.
It's a 15-inch. It's pretty beefy. I mean, it can. I got this. Has it been 2 years? No, it's been about a year and a half.
No.
And I got this because I wanted to have a machine powerful enough that I could open the game and have Logic running and not have it overload. So that way I could like be in the game and walk around and like get to be in it while I'm working on the music and be able to use it for schoolwork. So this has been a great device. But yes, I'm
can I tell you right now, laptops like Macs and stuff like that, they are perfect for making music and opening up light files. But if you want a game on a laptop, you're a goner. Even if it's a gaming laptop, they just struggle so badly. It's like, that's why I wish I mean
there's Roblox is fine because this is a I have 16 gigs of RAM here, and it's an i9. I mean, not that
a Core i9 should do it. That's actually quite good, actually.
Yeah, but like right now, I have like 11 applications open, so like it can handle a lot. But definitely when it comes to playing games,
open up 50 and then we're talking.
Stuff,
and then that's when it's really
a lot of stuff isn't compatible. You know, like I'll try to play games. Like sometimes I like to play games on Steam, but a lot of it's not compatible because they don't make it for Mac.
Yeah, Mac is in a very odd position when it comes to gaming and stuff like that. I think they should maybe improve on that. It's just very uncanny. Like, you know, I never imagined someone buying a Mac to like game and stuff like that. Even though they say you can, it's still like often it's not like recommended across the board. And then all these other companies who make gaming laptops and stuff like that, they actually recommend these types of laptops, and then they still do poorly regardless. I just would say, if anyone wants to work with music, I think buying a laptop is just perfectly fine. I think depending on what your software is, I'm not sure about that. I wouldn't know what software would take up too much on a laptop.
It kind of also depends on the situation because my dad was a producer. And in our basement at home, he has a big, or he used to, he's gotten like a new monitor since then. But he had a big iMac and connected, you know, his big speakers to it and set all of that up. And that's really nice.
Yeah.
But
very solid.
like it's good for someone like him because he was like 30, 40, wasn't moving around a whole lot. But for someone like me, because I'm 19 and I'm in college, and it's not really optimal to have a big desktop computer sitting on this tiny desk, and it's not easy to move around. So that's why I like having a laptop.
Yeah, especially
it's powerful enough to do what I need to do, and I can still carry it around to classes.
Yeah, I think a laptop is a good way to go for someone who wants to make music, but if they also travel as well, and they have to move around and stuff like that, I'm just quite peculiar on that and interested on that. It is because like us Roblox developers, if for me as a Roblox developer, I would never recommend anyone getting a laptop. Even I don't care how powerful it is, but you see the funny thing is when it comes to people who work with music, things like Macs or just laptops in general are perfectly built for using music programs and stuff like that, and they're more suitable.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, definitely quite interesting. I actually want to get into a few last questions before we head off on this podcast. I actually just want to ask, are there any people or any music, any people or any music genres that inspire you as a musician?
Yes, there's a lot.
A lot? Well, feel free to take a think.
In terms of people, so it's funny because this past December, I was given the opportunity to work with Floodescape 2 and Navola, who does all the other music and production work for them.
Yeah.
And back in 2018, I loved Floodescape 2. I would always play it. And there was one day I was watching a live stream of Navola working on one of the soundtracks for one of the maps in Floodescape 2.
Yeah.
And that night, I went to my dad and I was like, "Hey, I want to do this.
Yeah.
I wonder if I could do this." And he's like, "Okay,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He bought me Logic Pro and was like, "Have at it."
Whoa.
I was like, "How do I?
That's sweet.
What do I do?" He's like, "You'll figure it out."
You'll figure it out. What a savage! You just get it.
And I, start playing around, and then one of my good buddies, Short Round Zach, he has a map in the official game. It's a whole full circle thing. So back in 2018 when I first started writing, he would make maps for those that are familiar with it, there's the main game and then there's the map test, so people can do community maps, upload them, and then people can play them, and if you get lucky, they'll get added into the game. He was making one of the community maps and was like, "Hey, you can write a track for this just for fun," and we did. Fast forward to this past December, it gets added to the game, and since I did the soundtrack, I was able to work with Navola on rewriting the original soundtrack that I did for that game, and that was a full circle moment because the person that inspired me, I then got to work with 3 years later.
Oh, that's awesome. That is genuinely
So,
awesome.
Navola is definitely a big person for me.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome.
And for another person, just kind of general, Brian Tyler, he's done work for Avengers, Assassin's Creed Black Flag. I love those soundtracks.
That's awesome.
I love listening to his stuff, and he
that's awesome.
He always posts up. I've never talked to him, maybe in a few years.
So you mean the soundtrack for just the movies and all that?
Yeah, so he does film scores.
That's
so
wild.
I love listening to his stuff.
Oh, that's great.
And,
oh my gosh.
And then other
some
music
high quality
genres.
Stuff.
I really kind of whatever.
You could also refer to music
EDM
genres. Oh yeah, EDM's great.
Yeah. I like EDM a lot. I think EDM's super fascinating.
It went through a strange phase in 2015 with dubstep and all that. That was quite odd. That was kind of everyone's thing, and now when you mention dubstep, people are like, "Ugh, what the heck? What is this music?" And people don't listen to that. But yeah, EDM in general overall is just amazing.
Well, and it's cool because you have EDM, and then on the flip side, you have stuff like orchestral, percussion stuff. And there's with percussion, orchestral, brass instruments, all that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of choices.
Yeah.
You have a lot of options for instruments. But
I
with EDM,
love orchestral, but like only for particular movies like The Lion King. I think that's one of my favorite orchestral themes.
I absolutely agree with you.
Yeah, S
tier. But EDM,
yeah.
you have very little instruments to work with because it's all sine waves. It's all
you just have to be very creative. I think there's actually an artist. I don't know if you probably know him, but he's actually one of my favorite EDM artists. And there's a guy, and he's existed for a very, very long time. Have you ever heard of a guy called Porter Robinson?
I have.
Yeah, I think he's one of the greatest EDM artists of all time. He's just... the sounds that he makes are just so unique. You'd never ever hear in different songs. He's such a beautiful artist. I think he's... I don't know, it's just amazing. It's like he made the Mona Lisa of art.
I agree.
Music, yeah.
Because you have to take... You don't have a lot of options, but... It's an entirely different art form to take those sine waves and to turn them into something that is very
it's hard to be unique with EDM.
And it is
very hard. But he somehow does it, which is awesome.
Yeah, there's some people that are really good at it, and Porter Robinson's one of them.
Yeah. There's a lot of insane artists. I used to be obsessed with certain EDM artists, but I don't know what classifies as an EDM artist now, because it's quite interesting because the landscape has changed so much when it comes to EDM artists. Before, back in 2015, when dubstep was around and stuff like that, an EDM artist would be as close to something as a DJ. Someone like Skrillex or deadmau5 or something like that. But now it's changed completely. And I used to like listening to Skrillex, deadmau5, and then there was even a time when there was a guy called Marshmello. I used to listen to him. But I don't listen to those people anymore. I listen to different types of EDM. Like, I think EDM in itself has evolved, and I think that's fascinating. It's all sorts of things now. It's not all those weird little like strange sounds.
Yeah, you can find a lot of really cool stuff, and some people do mix of synths and natural instruments like strings, and it's all very cool. Yeah,
it's genuinely awesome. But I don't think I necessarily have anything else to say. I think we can actually end it off here. Is any
Yeah, well.
Yeah. Well, I never said this episode would be long, so I mean, but
No, yeah.
Yeah, we can always catch up sometime and actually do another episode. It's not the end, but
I would be totally up for that.
Yeah.
I've got to in a couple minutes run over to do some more music related activities.
Yeah, but is there anything you would like to say? Any shout outs? Anything you would like to say last minute before we end off? Anything?
I don't think so. If there's anyone listening that wants to get into music, jump into it, and I'm always open for questions also.
You know what?
Search up my name, you'll find a profile somewhere.
Yeah, go to and follow Blastii on Twitter. It's Blastii Music. You'll see the Twitter tag. It's right below her name on this video. But follow her on Twitter. She's absolutely amazing. Best music, hands down. Just 10 out of 10. Everything best in the universe.
Oh, okay. I don't know about that.
Come on.
But I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. But I think we'll just end things off here. But thank you guys all for tuning into the DevCast, and we're gonna see you guys all next week. Cheers. Bye.